My son's teacher called me in for a meeting about his inappropriate essays. They were about my abusive ex-husband, and now CPS is involved. My son Ethan is 10 years old and in 5th grade. Last Tuesday, his teacher, Mrs. Morrison, called asking me to come in for a meeting about some concerning work he'd submitted. She wouldn't tell me details over the phone, just said it was urgent and to come in the next day. I spent the whole night panicking. Was he bullying someone? Cheating? I couldn't imagine what Ethan could have done that required an in-person meeting. I showed up Wednesday morning and Mrs. Morrison had the school counselor, Mr. Hayes, sitting in her classroom with her. That's when my stomach really dropped. They had 3 printed essays spread out on the desk. Mrs. Morrison said Ethan had been writing personal narrative essays as part of their creative writing unit. The assignment was to write about a significant memory or person in their life. She slid the papers toward me. The first essay was titled "The Night the Police Came." It was about the night 2 years ago when my ex-husband David broke down our door at 2 a.m., drunk and screaming. Ethan had written in detail about hiding in his closet with his little sister Mia, hearing me screaming, hearing things breaking. He wrote about the police arriving and his dad being handcuffed. The second essay was "Why I'm Glad My Dad Left." It described the years before the divorce, David's drinking, his rages, the holes punched in walls. Ethan wrote about being scared to come home from school, about taking Mia to his room when our fight started, about the time David grabbed me by my throat in the kitchen and Ethan called 911. The third was called "What Safe Feels Like." It was about our life now, 2 years after the divorce, how he doesn't flinch when he hears loud noises anymore, how Mia stopped having nightmares, how I smile more. I read all 3 with shaking hands. Mrs. Morrison said gently that she had to report this to the school administration and that they'd already contacted CPS. It was mandatory given the content. I tried to explain that everything Ethan wrote about was in the past, that we've been away from David for 2 years, that we have a restraining order, that we're safe now, that Ethan and Mia are both in therapy and doing well. Mr. Hayes said they understood, but the essays indicated exposure to domestic violence and potential trauma that needed to be documented and assessed. He said it wasn't about punishment, it was about making sure we had the support and resources we needed. A CPS worker named Jennifer called me that afternoon. She came to our apartment the next day and interviewed all 3 of us separately. She looked through our home, checked our food, asked Mia and Ethan about school and friends and if they felt safe. Ethan was terrified he'd gotten us in trouble. He kept apologizing, saying he didn't know writing about real things would cause problems. I held him and told him he didn't do anything wrong, that telling the truth is always okay. Jennifer was actually kind. She said it was clear we were in a stable situation now. She verified the restraining order, checked David's status, confirmed we were all in therapy. She said she'd need to do a follow-up visit in 30 days, but that she wasn't concerned about our current safety. And the panic came from wondering if this would somehow affect custody. David has supervised visitation rights that he barely uses, usually cancels, but I was terrified this CPS case could be twisted into something against me. My lawyer, Patricia, said I had nothing to worry about. The essays documented abuse by David, not by me. The CPS report would actually strengthen the restraining order and support limiting David's visitation rights further. Mrs. Morrison called to apologize for scaring me. She said she wanted to clarify that Ethan wasn't in trouble. She said his essays were actually beautifully written, mature beyond his years, and showed remarkable emotional intelligence. She'd given him an A on all 3. She also said she should have given me a heads up about the assignment before it triggered a CPS call. That in hindsight, she would have approached the whole situation differently. The thing that broke my heart was reading what Ethan wrote about those years. I knew he'd been affected by David's abuse. I knew he remembered things, but seeing it written in his 10-year-old handwriting in such clear detail made me realize how much he'd been carrying. His last paragraph in "What Safe Feels Like" said, "My mom is the bravest person I know. She got us away from someone scary and made us safe. Now when I hear keys in the door, I don't get scared anymore. I just know it's my mom coming home." The CPS case is still open, but Jennifer said she expects to close it after the follow-up visit. She said this happens sometimes when kids write or talk about past trauma at school. The teachers are mandatory reporters and have to follow protocol. Ethan's therapist, Dr. Reeves, said writing those essays was probably therapeutic for him, that he was processing his trauma through writing, and that was a healthy outlet. She said she was proud of him for being able to articulate his experiences. I'm proud of him too, and angry that he had to live through things worth writing about in the first place, and relieved that we're on the other side of it, and terrified that one phone call, one essay, could bring everything back to the surface. We're safe now. That's what matters. But apparently, healing isn't linear, and neither is escaping the shadow of abuse.